blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me, the chances of quitting are likely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes, don't make excuses, they never excite me. Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it.
Good morning, Knicks universe. Welcome back to another episode of the Knicks Morning Brew on this Wednesday, January 3rd. Like always, I'm your guy Hector, hanging out with my compadres. I got my guy Phil, all caps. I got the guy Jerry Ferrara, and I got my one and only Jiggaman Porto. Fellas, good morning. How we doing?
Way too much coffee for me. I'm looking for you guys.
First one of the new year. Salute. I came in so fired too. I was like, it's a good one when Jerry's throwing up and I couldn't even say it. So, there goes that. What a fail.
It was a quick pause for like 2 seconds, and then Jerry was like, well, I got the coffee and I'm ready to go.
Look, I try to, we're all digital remote right now, so I always try to give a beat so this way I don't interrupt someone coming in, but I saw a window to talk and I took it. Fellas, first off, congrats on the growth that this channel and this feed has had in the last month plus. Thank you to everybody out there. That's been awesome. So, that's crazy to see. That show you guys did on Friday after, I guess, was that after the win or after the trade? I don't even remember, but
that was Monday.
The trade.
You're talking about this Monday.
Monday. I don't know what day it is. I figured out my one B for the trade. I have the thing that I hate most about the trade is that it happened when my kids were off of school, no childcare, so I could not talk about it at length. But clearly I can today. That's my biggest beef with the trade.
Jerry,
that's not a bad beef.
When the trade happened, I was online at the rent-a-car center. I'm in Florida right now, and I had a whole debacle waiting 3 hours for a car I never got. I couldn't talk about the Knicks, but then Monday came, and that episode was amazing. Before we continue, we got almost 200 people watching us collectively on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. If you're watching us on other platforms, click the link in the bio and come jump on over to YouTube. Join the conversation. We are at 2,507 subscribers on YouTube. We are about 500 away from 3,000. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, like Jerry says, just gently, politely hit the subscribe button. A subscribe a day, it keeps the doctor away. Phil, how you feeling?
I love how Q Swan in the chat was talking about me too. I was fishing, had no service. My phone went crazy when I got back to land.
That's fire.
Which I'm glad to be on the show because I wasn't on the last episode except for like chiming in real quick. But when the news broke, I had just started shooting a wedding. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm going to do a video real quick. And I was waiting for the groom to get there. As soon as I turned on my camera, he was running like 5 minutes late. He pulls up and he's like, you ready? And I was like, oh, frick.
Nope.
So I went, got him getting ready. And then I went to the bride and they were delayed with hair and makeup. And I was like, oh, hell. So I went outside in front of the hotel, pulled out my phone, created a video real quick to talk about the chat, and then went and finished my wedding because I was like dying to say something because it was so like I just felt it. Like we finally did something and I had to speak about it. And I knew I wasn't going to be on the show. So I was like, there's no way I'm waiting a freaking week to talk Knicks. So that was at least enjoyable.
Yeah, it was funny because I was watching Ron and John over at Still Knicks Fans.
Yes,
off the ledge.
shout out to Ron.
And it was right when the trade happened. And, Ron's doing his intros and he's talking about in the chat. I'm texting him. I'm like, bro, they just made a trade. And he hasn't gotten to the text yet. It's like 4 minutes later, he catches up on the chat. He was like, holy shit. I was like, I've been trying to tell you, man. But obviously, there's a lot to talk to about after that last game because if there's ever been a time to sit there and say someone fits like a glove, it's like if Tibbs created a cutout board and was like, this is my player. And if you fit perfectly through here, that's a Tibbs guy. OG is that guy. He literally got his guy that can go to the corner, shoot that three, play defense. Like I saw Tibbs smile at least 5 times that game. 5 times, guys. 5. Yeah.
The numbers when it comes to OG Anunoby, he is the defender that Tom Thibodeau has been waiting for. The advanced stats prove guarding Anthony Edwards, he was shooting below 40% from the field when OG was guarding him. That right there. And then you saw OG switching off of Anthony Edwards to Karl Anthony Towns. And both players, whenever OG was guarding them, he was locking them up. Point blank. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until Karl Anthony Towns was going one-on-one with Julius Randle. And, obviously Anthony Edwards is going to eat. But seeing OG Anunoby out there, that defense, oh my God. Shout out to the front office. They made the right trade.
And I think we got to talk about Leon Rose at some point in the front office today, because I have some thoughts on that and things to unpack. And I had to go deep and even hit up our boy Fred Katz to get some clarity on something involving a Leon Rose trade. But yeah, Hector, the things that jumped off the screen were, hey, we're finally bigger at that position now, which is small for. OG telling Jalen Brunson before the game, like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing still, so I'm just going to cut. Well, he 3 backdoor cuts, and that led to dunks, not even like bad finishes. So part of the offense yet. The corner 3, we know it's 40 to 50%, depending on how he's feeling that day. That's exactly. I don't think it's a surprise. Now, Julius Randle's been playing outstanding basketball for a month, over a month. I think everybody who hated on him in the beginning of the year, that was fine. I think we could say the ankle's healed and he's back. So everyone needs to just get off Julius Randle and give him the praise he deserves. But the floor is more spaced. Brunson, who shot, had great looks. They weren't bad shots. They just weren't going in. Those go in more often than they don't. Randle was eating all day long because the floor is spaced. And it's just a beautiful thing to watch. I think it's going to get better. I do think we have other holes now we need to fill, but way easier holes to fill than the one that we had before OG came here. I still will always love RJ. He retweeted, he quote tweeted my salute to him. Yeah. Same thing with IQ. I will always have a soft spot for those young players who came up through New York. I do like where they're at. I think this works well for Toronto as well. They weren't going anywhere with OG on the team. And I think they're still not necessarily going to go far, but now they have a future. They have 2 young players. So it's sad because it's emotional, even though we might not miss some of the frustration that came with it, the improvements on the court are there. And it's sad because of the emotion of it all. But and we could talk about the holes that need to be filled later. I want to kick it over to Phil. But yeah, just that's a guy that, we're talking about 3-4 first round pick. We're in a lawsuit still, and Leon pulled off the trade. We were saying weeks ago they're never going to trade with us. We're suing them. We didn't even drop the lawsuit. The lawsuit's still going.
Yeah, it was like when Proctor got that picture thrown out of court, and Tommy was able to get out.
It was Proctor-esque. This trade was Proctor-esque. If Proctor means anything to any of y'all out there, it was Proctor-esque.
Yeah. And, so for me, it's funny because it's like I feel like Knicks fans say a lot of things that they don't actually mean. Like you see a huge fan base that are just like, if you look at tweets before, it's like once a Knick, always a Knick. And now that RJ and IQ are gone, it's like bash central. Let's bash these guys. And I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, they're 2 of the first guys that actually wanted to be in New York in a long, long time. And you're giving them crap. Like a guy who was almost 6th man of the year last year, a guy who helped us in the playoff run last year. And now you're going to just be like, oh, they're gone. Get the hell out of here. You guys suck. No, they don't. They just weren't a fit for where we were at. We've said it so many times. The trio of JB, Julius Randle, and RJ was a cluster. It was not going to pan out. With Emmanuel Quickley as great as he was, the signing of Dante changed things, and it wasn't going to work out. But we still want to see those guys thrive. We still want to see them be 100%. Successful. So shout out to both of those guys. I'm glad they went together so that they could play out in Toronto together and get the opportunities that they need. But moving forward for us, this is what we needed. Like we've talked about the length thing for so long, and OG was the topic of conversation for so long. But with the whole lawsuit, we all kind of gave up hope. Like, all right, this is probably not going to happen because everything we're hearing is that this lawsuit is prohibiting anything from moving forward, and they're going to want to rob us in order to get OG. So we'll talk about Leon. Props to that, not getting robbed, not getting screwed. That was great. But what I think this does for us is, yes, it gives us that Tibbs defender, but it also gives us a lot more because with Tibbs, you know, he's not a very creative, offensive-minded coach, you know, so at times the offense can seem stagnant. Having a guy who is confident to continue moving and continue like trying to create without the ball, that is like the bonus that we need. Like if you look at it, how many times did he cut and Jalen Brunson catch him as he's halfway between where he was and the basket? Like that's not part of the scheme. That's just part of OG being OG. And that's a huge blessing for us because we need that. And if you look, he finishes, as much as I loved RJ, he finishes so much stronger. Like when he goes to the rim, there's not the question of what is he going to do? He's going to dunk it. And he's either going to get fouled and dunk it, or he's just going to get fouled and get to the line and hit his free throws. So it's a huge plus in the way that this guy plays. And one thing we also talked about was, yes, Julius Randle's been playing out of his mind offensively, like this season. And most teams have a player who is great offensively, not great defensively, but the way their team is structured, it covers those woes. Like it's not a huge, you know, point of contention. But with our roster, not really having the strongest defenders when we need them to make up for that, it highlighted us more and more the insufficiencies that we saw in Randle because we didn't have someone that could step in and help in any way, shape, or form. And if it did, it brought Mitch off the 3-point line. Off the paint, which killed us in the end. With OG, you see the way he moves. Like you don't even need to call for him to move and pick up your guy. Like he sees that and he's moving. So this frees up Julius Randle a lot as well defensively. Like it lets him focus on one guy at a time. And OG was willing to pick up the slack. And like Jerry said, it was kind of easy for Julius to score that game comparatively to when it was him and RJ and Jalen. And that's because OG moves so much. But also people know that he moves so much that they're not doing as many double teams on Julius Randle because they can't afford to leave OG open, and they know that. So that's a huge win for us there. So I know people are like, oh, well, it doesn't get us to the chip. Well, yes, you're right. It doesn't get us to the chip. But if I look at that last game against the Timberwolves, who are one of the best in the West and one of the best defensive teams, I feel we are a lot further along now than we were last week. And you've got to tip your hat off to that.
If I can real quick, we got over 309 people watching us collectively. We got 60 on YouTube. If you guys can, smack that like button for your boys. And if you're watching for the first time, hit the subscribe button. We are at 2,510 subscribers. To piggyback off of Phil's point, I'll throw it over to you, so real quick. Seeing the way that OG moves without the ball, there's a reason Jalen Brunson had 14 assists in that game. There's a reason why, because as soon as OG gets the ball, he's going up, whether that's a layup, whether it's shooting it from the corner. He's not trying to go ISO. And this is no shade on IQ or on RJ Barrett. But those two guys, specifically RJ Barrett, they just didn't fit in with the team. I'm going to always have a soft spot for RJ Barrett in my heart. We drafted him. Us Knicks fans, New York fans in general, once we draft a player or if a young kid comes up through our system, we like to hold on to them, and, they have a sweet spot on our heart. But I wish IQ the best in Toronto, and I think that's the perfect spot for them so they can flourish. Maybe in 5 years, we can have the conversation that IQ turns into the better player in the trade. But as of right now, OG Anunoby was the perfect move to make, and we had to have made that move. Go ahead, Sos.
Well, I mean, obviously we could talk about this trade for hours, guys. My thing was we got to see Jalen Brunson not shoot well, right? What was he? 21% from the field goal and 11% from three, 1 for 9.
5
right?
for 23 collectively total.
Yeah. But you know what? We were able to pull that win off against Timberwolves. It would have been wire to wire, right? They made their little comeback, but we were able to see the difference that OG did without even Brunson having to be Brunson, 40-piece Brunson, and we looked freaking solid. What I loved the most about it, though, was that it was a good showing, because how quick did the timeline change from questioning that trade to, holy shit, we got over RJ and IQ really quick. Yes, we'll always have a spot in our hearts for them because we drafted them. They were here. But, man, this shows. But the biggest thing for me, Jerry, and I'll toss it to you, is the fact that this trade was done so early, where we can actually sit here and say, hey, let's roll. Let's see what we've got. Now we can really dig on, hey, what else do we really need, and not just make a move to make a move. And I know this segues into Jerry being able to start talking about the trade itself and Leon. So let's go that route. Let's talk a little bit Leon Rose, because it's been multiple things, Jerry. You've got Leon publicly saying he'll talk to Clutch. We've got the OG trade out of nowhere that we weren't expecting, before the new year. And now we're hearing there's more trades and more. But then he even drops the, no, thank you. No paparazzi. No paparazzi. I'm not talking to you guys. No paparazzi.
So, so many things. I sensed something in the air last week. You remember when I sang, who did I sing? Charlie who? When you guys sang like a sad song. I knew something was in the air.
Charlie
yeah. I knew it was in the air. So first, really quick, look, there are some holes that need to be filled. We saw it when the Wolves subbed in McLaughlin, who didn't play in the first half, right? He's a smaller, quicker perimeter guard who kind of gave Deuce a lot of trouble, and even Brunson to a degree. So the holes that need to be filled are, I love Deuce. I don't know if he's quite ready to take on the offensive portion of being the backup point guard. Defensively, we love him. So to me, I still think we need to add, whether it's Clarkson on a good deal. I know there's a lot of Malcolm Brogdon rumors, which I think that'd be a really good fit. Ironic, we get the 6th man of the year last year, and we traded the runner-up. Look, I love Precious. I think it's unfair to kind of rate Precious's performance against the Wolves. That's the biggest team in the league that he's ever going to see. I do think he could play a little 5. It's clear that Taj is now the break in case of emergency center. Like, if guys are down. Hartenstein was incredible in that game. So I think we do need a little. We need scoring off the bench, play creation more than anything. Scoring with play creation for other guys. And I'd like to get a little bigger, than even Precious, because I don't know how much we can rely on Taj. That being said, it's all looking good. So my boy Leon Rose, right? I saw a lot of people. I think, and I talked to Fred Katz today. I think Fred Katz tweeted that, he did his typical press request for Leon Rose, who said, I will not denied, not speaking. Why do we need Leon Rose to talk to us? Like, would we like to hear from Leon Rose and get inside his mind? Sure. But I come from the school of don't let these motherfuckers know your next move. Okay. So I don't want to know if he's happy, if he thinks RJ's contract was.
He must know he doesn't have a good poker face or something, right, Jerry? He's like, I'm holding it close to the chest. I'm not letting anything out.
But you know what? Here are the results. Number one, rarely do the Knicks have leaks. Rarely are there.
Yeah.
This guy's not happy. Players sometimes will speak to the media and leak stuff, but rarely do you have organizational leaks. And guess what? Before him, we had Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson, all he did was talk.
He's the king of leaks.
All he did was leak stuff about players negatively, positive. So I am fine having a grown-up in there that runs a tight ship. I don't need to hear him speak. His moves are speaking for him. We got OG on a great deal. The part of the deal that I was talking to Fred Katz about that I couldn't remember. So we know, all right, the Raptors wanted IQ and RJ. That Pistons 2nd round pick. Anybody remember where that came from? I thought initially it was the Jalen Duren trade. Like, we didn't trade Jalen Duren, but we drafted Deng, traded him to OKC. OKC sent us back a Denver pick and a Pistons pick, right? That's what I thought it was. No. Go back to 2021. It was the trade. They traded 23 to I guess it was to the Thunder or maybe the Hornets. They ended up with 25 and they got back. They drafted Grimes and they got a Pistons pick. So that little trade, hey, the number 23 overall pick were turned into Quentin Grimes and a Pistons 2nd round pick that was the sweetener in the pot that we needed to get OG without giving up any firsts. We gave up no first round picks. How do you not love that move?
Yeah.
And then when you start looking at the stuff in 2022 with the Kemba unloading and all that stuff with Duren, that was all for the Brunson move. So this guy's moves are speaking for themselves. And then people are saying, well, he hasn't won a championship yet. Knicks fans, I love you. I am you. Don't go walking around here entitled like we deserve a championship right now. Do you remember what this situation was when this guy walked in the building? Think back. That doesn't take a year to unwind.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at Leon Rose in another 5 years from now to fully judge his tenure. And then you could say, here's his 10-year run. Look what he did. So I don't need the guy. Bottom line, I don't need Leon Rose to speak. I don't need him to talk to me as a Knicks fan. I don't need to hear from it. Keep doing what you're doing. Now let's add a little more firepower off the bench, and then let's go battle and see where we're at.
Yeah,
I want to take a second to highlight someone that's in the chat. It's my guy Theo Al Centron in the building. Al, how you doing? Al says, I love IQ, but man, I wanted to jump on, but I'm at my hotel. Took a 15 to catch a bit. Listen, Theo Al, whenever you free, you can just shoot me a message. I'll send you the link to join the conversation. But no, to echo what Jerry was saying, right? You're making so much sense, too much sense, Jerry. But no, you're absolutely right. When Leon Rose came over and took over this team, to Jerry's point, we were the laughing stock of the NBA. We had about like 20 different power forwards on the same team trying to fight for minutes between Bobby Portis, Morris, Julius Randle, and a young RJ Barrett. So we were in basketball purgatory. We were the we were just mockery of the NBA at the time. But when you look at what it is right now, 3 of the last 4 years, we've been in the postseason, right? Under Tom Thibodeau as a head coach. Tom Thibodeau is 5th in the Knicks franchise when it comes to wins as a head coach. That's right there is laughable on itself. The bar is set so low because we haven't had coaches have a long, successful tenure here with the Knicks because we've been changing pieces in and out, in and out, in and out. I like what Leon Rose has done. Do I need to hear from Leon Rose and to check the pulse and what's going on? Not necessarily, right? If we're going through a bad spell and we don't know where we're going, yes, we want to hear from the GM, the president, just to give us direction, to let us know what the game plan is. But the game plan right now, you could tell he's not done. Leon Rose is not done. He is playing 3D chess with us Knicks fans out here that are just waiting and are impatient. And like Jerry said, we haven't won a championship since the 70s. The last time the Knicks won a championship, women couldn't have a bank account. That's how long ago it's been that the Knicks have not won a championship. So just be patient. Trust the process. I know that gets tossed around a lot, but just wait and see. Leon Rose, he has something up his sleeve.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things where I understand the frustration because – yes, some of these moves to get Jalen Brunson here were good, but it was also damage control from like the cluster of bringing Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier here that completely didn't pan out to where we were going. So those kind of were like washes, I guess, for a lot of the fan base was like, all right, you made a good move, but that was after you made an absolutely horrible move. But with this whole OG thing, I think it should simmer some people down, because this is something that if we would have talked about it as much, or if they would have talked about it as much then when it was, a conversational topic on every YouTube, every sports network that we were trying to target OG, it might not have panned out the way that it did. Like Knicks Are Nice said, not Knicks Are Nice, Knicks-ish said earlier, there was a time where they were talking about 3 picks, 3 first-round picks that they wanted for OG, and I know people are like, oh, we gave up too much, but did we really? I said it in the summer, we weren't going to re-sign IQ. So for me, that wasn't a necessary loss because we weren't doing it anyway. And it fixed a huge gap of what we needed, which was length and defense. And RJ, as much as I like RJ, it just wasn't working out. So what did we really give up? Like a player that we were going to let go anyway, and a player that wasn't fitting, no matter how many times we try to put the square in the circle hole, it just wasn't going to happen. And a second round pick, so when we are able to now go, all right, crap, we didn't think this was going to happen at all. Like, this is crazy. We didn't think this was going to happen at all. And now it happened for an even better trade than what was rumored his value was. You have to kind of go, okay, maybe the silence isn't so bad. Like, if this is the things that they're going to pull out, and it was all kind of tactical. The CAA move happened, and now in that same season, like, here we are. So I honestly, yes, we're used to wanting people to talk, but we also don't know that when coaches and owners talk, if what they're actually saying is even valid or true, So we get satisfied, but are we really getting, what we're looking for? At the end, what we wanted was a trade that was going to help us get closer to contention, and we got that. So I'm going to bite my tongue on, anything else that I want and just keep on believing that, they're still working behind the scenes.
I just
go ahead,
flexibility.
Jerry.
No, the flexibility. Look, again, I will always miss media trained RJ. Okay. Yes, we know he's media trained. I will always miss him. That's my guy. But what we get now is there's lots of lineups that can be played that we just didn't have this flexibility. And this all to me, still has to trace back to a big thing we're forgetting. Mitchell Robinson got hurt. Okay. And before he got hurt, our defense was fine. Offense rebounding was not an issue. Rim protection, not an issue. So it makes me a little uncomfortable. Like, I just hope Mitchell Robinson's like, okay. Anytime you hear screws in a 7-footer's foot, you're like, what's the deal with that? So maybe there's more there. Who knows? But it was so clear that something this isn't all to me. This wasn't just a move of like, hey, let's go put all our chips in. This is like, hey, we might be in danger of slipping out of the playoffs into the play-in, and worse if we don't make a move, because it just highlights how much Mitchell Robinson cleaned up for us on a defensive end, on a rebounding end. He, to me, his stock rises. That's why I pray for his health, because he was working really hard. There's the flexibility I love now is, look, if it's DeJounte Murray, which I still think we have assets for and mainly picks, that's a fit. If it's, let's just add to the bench. If it's Jordan Clarkson, because we have the Fournier expiring, if it's Malcolm Brogdon, there's firepower now where it could go 3 or 4 different ways. And look, if we have to roll this team out, it sucks as we're playing, but in the playoffs, Tibbs is going to shorten the rotation down to 8 people anyway. Brunson and Randle are going to go, and OG are going to go 40 minutes a game in the playoffs if we make no other moves, and Hartenstein probably. So it's fun. It's good times.
Yeah.
Let me real quick. Hey, hold on.
It's where you want to be at if you're a Knicks fan. Go ahead, Sos.
Well, I was going to say, we've got over 300 in the building. If you're not over on the YouTube channel, take a second, jump over here, hit the subby, hit the likey. But I want to shout out a couple of super chats. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on. Oscar De Leon said, you might as well trade for McCall. # Nova Knicks. Appreciate you.
Listen, he's had a couple of rough weeks here. The Nets have had look, that's not going to happen. Sorry to interrupt. The Nets have become really hard to watch. Not that I watch much Nets. And, he doesn't look thrilled. So
no, and Net fans are losing their minds. If I've been paying close attention to the Nets fans base, watching different Nets podcasters, and a lot of Net fans, they're super upset when it comes to Mikal Bridges for the points that Jerry just laid out over the past 2 weeks. He hasn't had his best showing when it comes to on the court basketball.
We also had Double A with the $1.99. Our guy, the fittest 60-year-old in the building with the $1.99 says, gentlemen, we are contenders. Woo, someone's happy about it. He also dropped another $1.99. Appreciate you, Double A. Why is Stephen A. Smith tripping, fellas?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Jerry, you want to tackle that one first, or should I?
Jerry said refund him his $1.99.
I like we said, we tackled this a little bit last week. Love Stephen A. Very entertaining, very knowledgeable, grinder. hard worker. Show's awesome. I've watched it over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's going to take for him to be happy. Maybe maybe LeBron. I guess the Knicks have to get KD. Like he has like maybe his top 5 guys in the league that maybe aren't really top 5 anymore, and that's who he wants. I don't know what's going to move him. He says he was not moved. Okay, I don't know what's going to move you.
Mm-hmm.
Dame Lillard. Well, who are we talking about here?
When it comes to Stephen A. Smith, like you said, I've been watching Stephen A. Smith ever since I've been in high school. Not to age myself, but Stephen A. Smith, he's up there. If you had to put like a pillar and start rating, you got Mike Francesa, Mad Dog Russo, Stephen A. Smith. They are up there when it comes to the Mount Rushmore of just sports talking, right? Just sports talk. But I'm not saying he is aged and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Stephen A. Smith understands that his persona, he's a WWE character. He's just trying to get people upset on the internet. He's just trying to get clicks going when it comes to having these conversations and just wanting people just to talk about him on the internet. And yeah, I sent the link over to Al. I know Al is backstage. If we could bring up Al real quick just to join us on the convo. Al's out and about, and he said I had to join and come join the conversation. Al, what it do?
What's up, bro? Happy New Year.
Thank you. I gotta cover up where I work because people are crazy, and I don't need no fucking stalkers. So I'm covering up right here. But I wanted to say real quick, I saw that Jerry mentioned Brogdon and Clarkson. I like it. It's not going to cost a shitload, so I like it. I'm going to bring it up on the show on Sunday, so I'm going to steal that from you. And I will give you the credit for that as well. But this notion that the Knicks got fleeced or whatever the case may be, are you stupid? Are you dumb? They got rid of R.J. Barrett's contract and quickly won starter money. Get over it. He ain't getting $100 million to come off this bench. So move on. Move on, Knicks fans. You always dwell on the dumbest shit. The other thing I want to say is Stephen A. Smith, as far as Stephen A. Smith goes, when he first came up on ESPN and all that, he was good. Now, I'm sorry, that is TMZ trash. And I know people would love to be him, and I understand that. No, I don't want to be what he's become. What he was before, he was knowledgeable, he was legit, and now he's like you said, Heck, he's become a WWE character. He's become a caricature, and I don't respect that. How are you going to say you couldn't even pronounce Hartenstein's name correctly and you say you're a Knicks fan? Plus, you left down 21 versus Miami. You left in the third quarter. You left from your front row seat. And what happened?
True? Is that
and what happened?
I know that Emily Ratajkowski got banned. Oh, well, Stephen A. going to get banned now?
Oh, yeah. I posted a picture of his empty ass seats. He left down 21. And what happened? When he left the building, positivity happened and Knicks won. So I don't want to hear from him that he's some diehard Knicks fan. I don't want to hear that. You got to be able to pronounce the players' names right first and foremost if you watch the damn team every day, as you say you do. And how can you say this trade's not good? It spaces the floor. There ain't no clogging in the lane anymore for Brunson and Randle. So they can operate one-on-one. And guess what? When you clog the lane, you're going to have to pay with OG and Dante DiVincenzo up in your face for three-point range. So there you go. I got to get back to work. I don't want to get written up. Thank you for the time. When I have time to jump back on, when I'm off, I'll be more than happy to join you guys.
Of course.
Enjoy the show. Keep up the good work, brother.
Theo, Al, my guy. Al was in my inbox on Instagram. He said, "Yo, I'm at work, but I got 30 seconds to talk real quick. Let me get the link." I was like, "All right, cool. My fault. Sorry about the audible, guys. Sorry about that."
I also want to point out this comment. I highlighted it a little while ago. Rich God said, "As a Steelers fan, I can tell y'all, Mike Tomlin speaks every single week and says nothing. Let Leon Rose be."
That's
He's
funny.
not here. Shit.
I just want to bring it up. We got over 100 people in the building. We got 103 watching us on YouTube. If you guys can smack the like button, we are sitting on 52 likes. But we had some chatter on Twitter yesterday. Charania came out talking about how the Knicks, no matter what happens, Leon Rose will always have his eye on Karl Anthony Towns. And then other people started bringing up Donovan Mitchell. Listen, as a Knicks fan, I'm just say this right now. Karl Anthony Towns, he's an amazing talent, right? But we got to ask ourselves, do we want Karl Anthony Towns or Julius Randle? And as of right now, I like what I'm seeing out of Julius Randle. And when it comes to Karl Anthony Towns, that money that's attached to him, that contract, I'm not a big fan of that contract. So I'd rather keep Julius Randle at the moment for the money that he's getting and the production we're seeing on the court. Fellas, what about you? I throw it over to Jerry, then throw it over to Phil, and then Celcito.
I love Towns' game because, probably one of the best, if not the best shooting big man we'll ever see. Like, just in terms of, like, if he actually shot even more threes, I think his percentages stay where they are. But it goes back to the same thing. And I know there was like rumblings in the offseason of this past offseason that there was a deal to maybe be made and it didn't happen. But nothing's happened with Karl Anthony Towns till the offseason. And what it would take for them to actually move him now would be something really dramatically bad. Getting bounced in the first round, swept in the first round, a 10-game losing streak. Because, look, even watching that game, the Wolves got up on us. We fought all the way back, closed the gap. Then we went up 20. But then when they made a few tweaks, that coach is really good. You saw, Jaden McDaniels is a dog. That dude that's like the dude you want. That dude's incredible. He ain't going anywhere. No. Karl Anthony Towns ain't going anywhere. And look, for me, what I've seen from Randle this past 5 weeks, that is a star. To me, he's a star player.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not like the trendy star pick that you want, and we all know the issues. Every star comes with issues. Every star comes with issues. Name me a star that doesn't come with issues. Like, that's gettable. Like, we ain't getting Shea. Like, let's
Jerry,
just call it Shea's filleting
Jerry,
people
does every
regularly.
fan base after a win automatically have like 30 trades out on their timeline? Or is that just a Knicks thing?
That's just
like, the game wasn't even over in fourth quarter. People were already like, go get me Murray. Go get me down. I'm like, can we enjoy the fact that we're whooping up on the Wolves right now? Like, can we appreciate the Randle rampage for a second? Like, I
tell you who does. Mike Breen respects it. Mike Breen respects the Randle rampage. So
rampage.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a ride or die. So I'm riding or dying with Randle right now. I love Towns, but also Minnesota doesn't need to do anything really other than like little tweaks here and there. They don't need to do much, in my opinion.
Why would they trade Karl Anthony Towns having the best record in the Western Conference? Why would they do that? So to me, it just makes no sense. It's not like there's turmoil going on over there. It's not like Karl Anthony Towns is choking out people like Draymond Green was doing.
Right, and you would think, and then I'll kick it over, right? When that trade first happened for Gobert, right? Everybody was like, wow, they overpaid. And they did, especially at the time, although the trade has aged a lot better this season. But if you are going to pair Gobert with another big, it's a guy who's going to stretch the floor.
Yeah.
Like Randle and Gobert,
Rudy,
if they ever was a trade, let's say, that would be a disaster probably. So it's, he could be the one that got away. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. What about you, Phil? How are you feeling when it comes to all these rumors and stuff from Shams?
Yeah, like Jerry was saying, there was rumors over the summer, of an off-season trade. That would have been the time to do it when it looked like their experiment had failed, when it looked like it wasn't going to work out. When they ended their season last season, I think they were like 42-40. Like, that was the time to make your move if you were going to make your move. But there was little direction of where we were really going with things. I think the Mitchell Robinson injury plus, how RJ and Julius were, not playing well with each other kind of led us to the direction that we're currently going in. And so I don't think the Timberwolves, unless, like Jerry said, things fall apart out of nowhere, which I don't see happening, there's really no reason to move along from that. Like if you have a team that is finally contending better than your organization has contended in a long time, like you're going to ride that hot hand, and so I don't see them really moving away from that. And I feel like now, with Anunoby here, we're making the right moves where we're adding a player who can contribute offensively, but is also more so defensive minded, especially in the absence of now Mitch for the rest of the season. The last thing you want to do is trade away, something and bring in, Karl Anthony Towns, who's not the greatest defender either, like it brings a lot offensively, but are we then going back the offensive only route, So for me, if we're going to trade for a big, now that we have offense coming from Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, let's add some shooters on the bench or in the starting lineup. And then if we make a move for a big, it needs to be someone that's defensive minded as well. Like someone that is okay to stretch, but is still a great, great defender. I don't want us to swing the pendulum one way or the other anymore. We either look like we're great offensively and horrific defensively, or then we look great defensively and we look horrible, offensively. I don't want that. So I feel like we're starting to go in the right direction. I don't think Towns is that guy for us. People have talked about Mikhail and DeJounte. All those moves are great because if you look at it, then that brings Dante back to the bench. And now you have shooting on the bench and you add something to partner with Dante on the bench. And for me, I think that's the direction to go. I don't think that we need to, like, after signing OG, I don't think we have to go for the, like, elite top 6 players in the NBA like goal anymore. I think the way that we're structuring it is different, but it can work. And the good thing about DeJounte's contract is if we brought him in and it didn't work, he's a perfect package piece over the summer to then be able to try and go after one of these disgruntled stars that you would think of, but I think that's the way to go. You get me a DeJounte Murray, throw in a Clarkson or something like that off the bench. We got something.
I just want to point something out. We got 320 people watching us collectively on all platforms, 142 people in the building on YouTube. If you're watching us on Twitter, click the link in the bio. Come join us over here. And if you're watching us on YouTube, just nicely and gently hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. But I just want to highlight one person in the chat. Oscar De Leon just said, I just subscribed. You guys are so cool. I appreciate you. If anybody is in the chat, if you're new to us, let us know. Just drop new in the chat so we can welcome you to the Brew Crew Familia. I want to ask you fellas real quick, right? I know we're talking about the trade and how much we like the trade and where do we want the team to go. I want to ask you guys, and I throw it over to Celso. Yes, we made the right. I think we could all agree we made the right move when it came to OG Anunoby. But is Tibbs the right coach? That's the question I want to ask you guys. I throw it over to Celso, and let's go around. I know I was giving Tibbs his flowers when it comes to being the fifth winning all-time coach for the New York Knicks, but is Tom Thibodeau the right answer for the coaching job? Throw it over to Celso, and then throw it over to Jerry, and then Phil.
I had a feeling we'd get to this at some point today.
Yeah, listen, I texted you we was going to talk about this.
And where's the graphic? And where's the graphic?
No.
I was like, wait, you texted me? He didn't. But I'm prepared. Wow. I'm prepared, Jerry. Come on. He's on the screen. Listen, if you give the man guys that he wants to play with, we see what can happen. I mean, again, I'm not expecting the old man to learn new tricks. Okay. But if you're going to sit there and I'm going to see him make moves like he's doing with iHeart in there, as happy as he is with OG, listen, you give him the players he wants, we're a solid team. But I'm not ready to talk about are we going to change to another? We've been doing it. Doing it. With OG there, bro, this man is happy. Give him the players he wants. They give us the answer. We are going to bring in players that fit him. So if we know what his system is, we want to win, then keep bringing him players that fit him. We got our Julius Randle answer. Julius and everybody else that Leon wants. Just make it happen. I'm okay with it.
Look, just like we were talking about, there's a little bit of baggage that comes with the stars that the Knicks don't have, right? Most of them anyway. There's some that there's none, but there's always a little. I think the same thing comes with a coach like Tibbs, right? We know the weak points, okay? We know the strengths. The biggest thing that he has, in my opinion, obviously we know about the defensive prowess, but the team responds to him. When we go on these losing streaks, they bounce back. Obviously last year was a debacle not 2 years ago for a lot of reasons, but again, guys, look where we were. Now, is Tibbs the coach for the next 10 years?
No.
I think you need to be flirting with championships consistently to say that. But for right now, I mean, this guy's turned around the culture, everything, and he gets respect. So when players like OG Anunoby come in from Toronto and don't know what the hell they're doing, you could look over at a guy like Tibbs and be like, well, he probably has a plan. I trust him. So I'm what Tibbs has done for this franchise, like good and bad, you got to just clap it up. So I don't know if it's 10 years, and also maybe he doesn't want to coach for 10 years, but come on, guys, look what he's. Yeah, Hart was a guy. Josh Hart was probably a player that Tibbs wanted, and that's work. I'm sure OG Anunoby has been a player that Tibbs wanted to coach, and that was the right move. You know, Cam Reddish, say what you want, wasn't a Tibbs guy. He's in LA.
No.
Okay, how did that really work out? Well, I'm just saying, like, you know, like the players who have also gone, and look, we'll revisit this trade years from now, and who knows what happens with RJ and Quickly. But I don't know. I am a Tibbs guy. You cannot deny what this guy has done for this team. And you say he doesn't develop young players. Randle, when he got here 4 years ago, was a young player. He was like 25 years old. And he's made 2 All-NBAs under Tibbs and may get a third if he keeps it up. So come on. Clap it up, Tibbs. You're my guy. Phil, I'm Phil. I mean, we're gonna get the good cop, bad cop thing. Let's
Phil,
go.
The Phil, Grinch that stole Christmas is Phil Porto.
Hold on, Phil. Before you give yours, the chat's going in. We got Julian said, "Don't make me throw up on the Tibbs."
Also, time out. I also will say, if not Tibbs, like this is a thing even with like writing with me. If you're gonna get notes, right? If you're gonna say, "Hey, your script sucks," and here's why, then you also need to give me ideas of how to fix it. So if you're going to say Tibbs isn't our guy, I need to hear examples of who that guy then is. You don't have to say like unrealistic ones. If it's not Tibbs, then who?
Don't forget him on Valentine's Day, all right?
I'm sending him some roses and chocolate.
There you go. I got $10 on it. Go ahead, Phil.
Go ahead, Phil.
Come and drop the salt on our parade. Go ahead, Phil.
Get that man the hell out of here. No, I'm just playing. No. All right. So where I stand with it is I think Tibbs has done a really, really good job. And I think that, you know, there has been the excuse of maybe it's the roster construction, maybe he didn't have a bunch of say in it, So if this is true that he's getting his guys now, this is where I want to see it. This is where I want to see something happen. You know, like, yes, he's the winningest coach in a long, long time. Top 5. Awesome. Thank you for that. What I want to see, though, is where does it go from here? You know, because if winningest coach means that for the next 10 years, he gets us to the second round of the playoffs, I don't really care to continue to get to the second round of the playoffs. Like, I'm turning 40 this year. I don't want to be 50 going, at least we're in the second round of the playoffs. Like shoot me now. Shoot me now as a Knicks fan. Like, I don't want that. Okay? So what I want is, okay, if Tibbs is a guy, no, we're not going to fire him. That makes absolutely no sense. Like, we would have to seriously go on like a Detroit Pistons run for the rest of this year, you know, to see something like that happen. But what is next? What is next? You know, in the same way that I'm very, very thankful for how great Julius Randle is playing right now, I'm not going to buy a Julius Randle jersey until I see that he can actually like play hard in the playoffs. Like, I want to see that. That is something for me. So in the same way with Tibbs, I want to see what we can do in the playoffs. We're adding the right pieces now. Can we do better in the playoffs? So I don't want an extension of Tibbs if it's based off of just the second round of the playoffs. I would want it to be more. And I also don't want it to be one of those things where just because it's better than it's been before, we go, hey, it's better than it's been before. And then we do it and it doesn't get better. You know, like that's the one thing is I want to base it off of our progression season to season, as opposed to the lack of progression that we had when we had all those dumpster fights.
No. I love your point. Your point is completely, I'm with you 1,000%. Look at the progression. The guy came in 4 seed, destroyed in the first round of the playoffs. Terrible. Second year, awful, right? So it was trending really bad. Last year, we get some guys, second round, game 6, winnable game. That's all progression. So I think what you're saying is you have a lot of stock on this season. You need to see them like if they lost in 7 games in the second round, in your opinion, is that lateral, like no progression? So we need like
depends who we're playing.
He's progressed almost every year.
Depends who we're playing. You know, right. like here's the thing is, we're saying progression, but we go playoffs first year that he's here, then an absolute abysmal season, and then back in the playoffs. So for me, those have kind of balanced each other out between those last 2
And
years.
how would you grade his first 3.5 months then?
Oh, his first 3.5 months this season have been great. Right. And that's why for me, the same way I'm saying Julius Randle's first, 3.5 months of the season have been great too. For both of them, I want to see the playoffs, because for me, I don't care to continue to be the maid of honor or the best man at a wedding and die alone. Like that's what the Knicks are bringing me. They're taking me to weddings constantly over and over again. I'm buying the dresses, I'm buying the suits, I'm showing up to the event, I'm dancing a little bit, shaking a little bit of tail feather, and then I'm going home alone. I don't want to go home alone again. Bring me a freaking Eastern Conference contention. Get me to the Eastern Conference, and then I'll give you the bag. I will sign the contract myself.
Could we break down the Randle stuff too for a second? I don't want to be the Randle apologist, but okay. First year playoffs, off that series against the Hawks is one of the worst series that your number one player has ever played. Okay. It was really hard to watch, but also really go look at that roster. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, he gets a pass. That's on him. Also mentally checked out. And so that was on him completely. But we overachieved that entire year, and, too much on his plate, too much. He had no number two. Who was his number two? It was RJ, who was like, that series. And it was like Alec Burks, I think, was third in minutes in that whole series.
And Reggie Bullock as well.
Reggie Bullock.
He stopped hitting threes and stuff. He couldn't find the bottom of the basket.
Last year's playoffs, for me, again, you could say, hey, you're a Randle apologist. The dude was injured. Most players would not have played with his injury that he had, even if it was the playoffs. And he played, and he got surgery immediately. Now, and go look at some of those games, at least in the Cavs series. He wasn't great in the Cavs series, but he was certainly a presence that helped and was grabbing rebounds and was scoring when he could. So I don't know. I didn't look at like his playoff run last year like total dog shit. That dude was hurt. He shouldn't have. Theoretically, there's a version where he does not play. Would you rather he doesn't play?
That. I would have rather had that.
You'd be sitting here saying, I need Randle to show up. He got hurt in the playoffs. He doesn't show up in the playoffs.
No.
Argumenting back and forth.
True. Because if he's not on the court, his stats would have just looked as good as they were when he was on the freaking court. He was. But
you would have said, "Oh, we did another playoff. We have no Randle."
He was a detriment to us. Like, I'm sorry, injured or not. Injuries
in what series? In the Heat series, he was a detriment.
Do not cause the turnovers, the way he presented himself. Listen, bro, I'm here right now with like, I was on the show the next morning after I slipped off the freaking stairs and shattered like 3 ribs. I wasn't a total douchebag and being like, well, can't really help out, Jigga. Can't really help out, Hector. Sorry, screw you. I'm here. I have broken ribs, and I'm going to disclose it after the show. And complain about that's why I was a douche.
I don't know if that's quite a 1-for-1, Phil. But
you're right.
And then that morning you
paid mad money. I broke his hell while I was on the show.
And to be fair, that morning you did forget to hook up your Instagram to StreamYard, and I had to do it for you. So to be fair.
Time out. Shout out to Double A with the $4.99 super chat. The Wolves are hurting. They asking for an Eddie Presti fundraiser.
I just want to hop on to the conversation Phil and Jerry was having. A very spirited conversation.
Spirit is good. People love Spirit.
Yeah, Phil definitely plays hurt. But to Jerry's point, during the postseason, he was injured, right? And some people may not use that as an excuse or let it just fly by. But the fact that after every game when he didn't perform, when he had those turnovers, he didn't lean on the fact that his ankle was hurt. He didn't lean on the fact that he was injured. We didn't hear about it until the postseason was over. And when the postseason, and we found out about it when it was announced he was having surgery. So it's not like the postseason was over. Then it was announced by the Knicks that Julius Randle was going to have surgery in a month. And then us Knicks fans had to sit with that before the surgery. No, the postseason was over, and immediately he went to have the procedure, and that's when we found out. So I want to give him a little bit of grace, but this time, this postseason, he has to step up this postseason. There's no more grace this postseason. There's no more mulligans. There's no more, we're just going to wait to see what happens to the next postseason. Julius Randle is going to have to show up this postseason. Shout out to my guy Manny in the chat. Bro, I just watched the Brady episode, and let me just say, Tom Brady sucks balls. Go New York Knicks.
I feel like I should have read that one. Listen, I'm making it very clear, and I am sticking with it like I have all season. Everybody can talk all the shit they want. Good, bad, whatever. This is the Iron Man right there. All right. Dirty, keep killing it. How can anybody say anything bad about Julius Randle outside those first couple games this season? This has been the man. Okay.
Here's the thing: is no one is talking bad about him this season.
You are.
Person.
You are
bad about him this season. What I say bad about him this season?
You said his breath stinks. All right, that's what you said. Okay. we got 190 people in the building on YouTube. If you guys can smack that like button, we are sitting at 88 likes on the stream. We are just 12 likes away from 100. Help me out with my ADHD. I need to see 3 digits on the screen. Smack that like button. Now,
anyway,
let's move on from Randle.
Julius Randle's playing great. If he plays like this in the playoffs, we will be trouble. Like, that's what I will say. That's what I will say. When he does, we will be trouble. But it needs to happen. Like, and I don't think that's unfair for fans to ask. We have not seen him play well in the playoffs yet. Like, the ones that are just like, well, you're a hater because of that. It's like, well, no. Like, we're looking at the collective of the player, like in the entirety of what we've seen. Like, that first season and that third season, he had good seasons. You know, it was the playoffs that left us feeling like, what the heck is going on? So our team has backed him. Our front office has believed in him and has brought him back. Like, I want to see it. He says he wants to bring a chip to New York. And I love that. I love those kind of statements. The way to do that is to leave it all out there on the court in the playoffs. And that's what I want to see this year.
Have you placed your votes for the All-Star game? Have you placed your votes for the All-Star game yet?
Yep. It was 3 yesterday. It was worth 3 yesterday.
Is Julius Randle on your ballot?
Yes, he is. He's been on my ballot every single day.
I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to keep that same energy. All right, keep that same energy. Okay.
As a matter of fact, RJ and Emmanuel quickly fell off my ballot once they got traded to the Raptors. So
hey.
All right,
you got room for Jericho.
We got to talk about the game tonight, obviously, because we do have a game. I don't know if you guys realize that. We do have the Bulls tonight.
We haven't talked about it yet, and he's been very, very patient. One of our new viewers had asked, I'm trying to find it, he was asking our thoughts on Precious Achiuwa and if we believe anything's going to be there. So I don't want to miss him because he asked it earlier and said, do you guys answer questions? Here's my questions. It's from Park Street Raised Me. So figured we can chime in on that to show the support back.
All right, bet. So for me, when it comes to Precious, and I'll throw it over to Jerry and Soso afterwards, I think Precious is going to be a solid piece off the bench. He gives us an actual backup power forward who could slide in and be a backup center if there's any foul issues with Isaiah Hartenstein and whoever else is the center at the moment. But for me, I think Precious is going to be a solid piece coming off of the bench. He gives us size and he gives us that toughness that we have been lacking. What about you, Jerry?
Yeah, I agree. I think I said it earlier. I think it's hard to. We definitely can't overreact even to OG after one game, but Precious definitely had some rough moments in that game. That's the biggest team that the Knicks will face all year for the most part, not counting Embiid and Jokic, but that's a tough matchup for him. Small for the 5, can't do it, and I think we'll need to do it unless we make some moves. But I think if he did have, I would almost be curious to see him along with Hartenstein and give Randle a blow to kind of see him as a natural athletic 4 to see what that looks like. I think, look, when that trade first broke, I was shocked because all I saw was OG Anunoby, which is the player we wanted, but I'm like, we gave up way too much. But then when you saw that we also got Precious back and it wasn't the first, it was a second and all made. Precious was a big part of that for me that, all right, that's a valuable rotational piece that I think Tibbs will like.
Yeah. And for me personally, yes, it was a little bit of a rough game. He's not the kind of guy like OG that can come on and go, I don't really know the system, but I'm going to keep just doing this. Like, they got thrown into it pretty stinking quickly, you know?
Yeah.
So for me personally, I'm not expecting a ton from Precious, but when you look at it, we just added someone with a 7.5 foot wingspan off the bench, which is not something that we've had. So when we play teams that do have length, adding that is important. I don't care if he gets us 5 points a night. Having that ability to have someone both in the starting lineup and now off the bench as well that gives us that length is important.
Yeah.
So that was a great addition to that deal. Like, that alone is worth just a measly second-round pick, is to add some length to our, very, very short team that we've complained about. And so the one thing I will say is I do think it's a little interesting that Malachi Flynn is 2 games in a row unavailable to play. Like, I don't think he'll ever see a New York minute. Honestly, I think he's going to get packaged
No
into
pun
something
intended.
else. But
I do like him though.
I do like him. I do like Malachi Flynn.
To Phil's point, it is, and someone I just saw, I think it was Jet in the chat, just asked, like, what about Malachi? Yeah, it is strange, Phil. The writing kind of is on the wall. Like, and if you looked at his expressions, sitting on the bench, I get he just got traded, lots of travel and things out. He's just sitting there like, it looked like a guy who was counting his minutes to, like, I'm out of here any day. Yeah. So, but we'll see. I like him. I actually think, I love McBride. The offense has to be there, but I think Flynn, if you could merge Flynn and McBride into one player, that's probably like the perfect backup point guard. And then someone else mentioned Sims, and hopefully Sims is starting to get back healthy. I would like to see a Sims Precious, Hart, Grimes, and whoever it is, Brunson. It's pretty clear Brunson and Randle will be on the court. One of them will be on the court at all times with his current roster. And as we get into the playoffs or play in or wherever we stand. So, you could do whatever lineups you want, but Randle or Brunson will be on the court at all times.
Yeah, and to be fair, when it comes to Tom Thibodeau, and you look at his teams and where he's been at in Minnesota and Chicago, Tom Thibodeau's never had 2 guys like Julius and Jalen Brunson that he could rely on to be on the court at all times, like you just said. In Chicago, he only had Derrick Rose, and he had everybody who was helping and filling in with Derrick Rose. In Minnesota, he had Jimmy Butler, but he didn't have the best version of Karl Anthony Towns or Andrew Wiggins. So he didn't have 2 top dogs like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle who could be on the court, or at least one of them could be on the court at all times. So we got to see when it comes to this new roster that we got with OG and everybody's every other name that we mentioned with Tom Thibodeau and his schemes. I think OG Anunoby is going to work perfectly. And I felt so good. How many did you guys get nervous seeing OG drive to the lane? I thought he was going to get blocked like RJ Barrett did at least 2 or 3 times a game.
He's got a 7-foot wingspan.
You can't block that. You can't block that.
He's got some bunnies.
Before we talk about the game, 2 things I just wanted to say. First, I don't think Malachi is actually legally allowed to play for the Knicks. I think Dante DiVincenzo has a do not compete where it can only be 1 ginger per roster. So I do not think that Malachi Flynn will ever see a New York minute. Can't surpass that ginger clause. And then the last one.
Yeah, but how scary would it be if you had a whole lineup of the gingers out there, bro?
I'd be terrified if that was the defense. I'd be terrified. And to the last point here, Jam and Jet, Julius Randle. First, that part, he needs to keep his head in check. He's an emotional player. Here's one thing I want to say. I never want Julius Randle to not be an emotional player. Because if you look, the games where he is emotional and it's going in all the right ways to be emotional, that fuels not just our teammates, but the fan base in general. And as a 90s Knicks fan, I love that passion. I love that emotion. I love the emotion that you would see in the Starks and in the Spreewells and in the, Anthony Masons. So we want that. We don't want him to not be an emotional player. And so I don't want it to like swing the pendulum where we're like, oh, he just needs to be a shell of a person and knock out numbers. Like, no. Like, I want him to be that emotional player. And that's kind of why I like the talks of like the DeJounte Murrays and stuff like that, because they also kind of have that like little arrogant chip on their shoulder, which I feel like as much as I liked RJ, we used to joke all the time. RJ would have like a crazy dunk and it would look like he was going to your mom's house to like deliver cookies. Like that was his angry face. Like, you know, like Little Red Riding Hood going to grandmother's house. But that was his mean mug. And you were like, what is going on? You're not even like, what are you proving right now? So I would love to see more of that actually.
I just want to take a second to point out we got 2,530 subscribers. We are sitting at 70 away from 2,600.
This is the one I was going to bring up.
And if you aren't subscribed, gently and politely hit the subscribe button. Double A with the 199 super chat. Was Deuce signed to up the value in trade?
I'm glad he threw that in there because I also saw a lot on the timeline where people were like, man, Malachi's going to take Deuce's minutes, right? You're seeing a lot of that there. And for me, my thing with Deuce is the shot looks so nice. It just doesn't fall, you know, like it looks beautiful. Like you would think the way his form is, it's like, oh yeah, but it's like doink every time. But where are you at with it, Jerry? And then I'll throw to Hector with Double A saying, was that a value up in salary and trade value, or do they really think he's a tidbit?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. One, like you said, look, there is a version where the Knicks don't do anything this year, right? That is possible. So, you know, Deuce will be a part of the bench rotation. So I think the extension also just, you lock him in at a price now where, okay, if we were to move him or you lock him in positionally, like, you know what that number is, right? And it does help in terms of his value to know what it is, because, you know, if he goes to another team and blows up, then he's going to be, all right, now I want 20 million, you know? So it locks him in at a good price and all the upside remains upside, and you could deal with that if it comes to it. You know, I think it's hard. Similarly, like with the Grimes situation, like Deuce, when he comes in like that, how do you say he's in a rhythm? I'm with you, Sal. So the jumper looks good. The middy's gone in a little bit. The 3-point shot, he was hitting it a little bit more last year. I just think it's reps. If he's going to be the backup point guard, then we need to reevaluate that in like 2 weeks.
Give him time to breathe.
With his, you know, if he's going to get the 18 minutes a game, then we need to see what that looks like in a week or two, because it's just hard. But defensively, I mean, I just love what the guy brings, and I think that's such a valuable piece. And come playoff time, I thought he should have played a little bit more. Even in the playoffs last year, even if it's for 5 minutes, just go be disruptive. Pick someone up. It's what these guys do to Brunson all the time now. They're picking Brunson up full court and just making him work to bring the ball up. So just go do that. And that's valuable in the NBA, especially in the playoffs. I saw someone finally mention, this is a name that we have not talked about yet, and then we could start wrapping all the, but a guy I'm starting to watch now, his name's been thrown around, and Black Eddie just brought him up. Rozier. We've said it. He like Phil, you had meant like that is a very interesting. That dude's a dog. So like, again, we just don't know because Leon doesn't speak, but we're allowing that, and we'll have to see. There's moves to be made though, so these shows are going to be great in the new year.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it definitely is. We got 170 people in the building. If you guys can smack that like button. When it comes to Deuce, or what I like to call him, El Deuce de Leche, Deuce McBride, I've always been a fan of Deuce McBride, and I always wanted to see him get burned, and always wanted to see him get minutes. It's kind of funny, after the dust has settled on like all the trades we have made, the only young players that we still have on the team are young players that Tom Thibodeau wanted and made Leon Rose drafted. Deuce McBride, Quentin Grimes, and Jericho Sims. All three of those guys were guys that Tom Thibodeau wanted Leon Rose to draft. And it's kind of funny, after we make the trades, those are the three young guys that we have left still on our roster. But like your point, Celso and Jerry, I just go with Deuce. Right? If he's going to be a backup point guard, let him go out there. Let him learn on the job if he has to. If he makes some mistakes, allow him to make those mistakes so he can make those in-game adjustments or learn off of his mistakes during the game. And hopefully he builds up enough of a repertoire or enough confidence headed into the postseason that he could be a solid piece coming off of the bench for 10 to 12 minutes and could be super productive for us.
Yeah, I think right now it's just a matter of, I feel like he's fitting his slot. You know, we have that slot right now while we figure out other things. I think that this is a chance for him to develop. But I'm not going to lie. You know, we've talked about it before. And like Jerry said, imagine Scary Terry coming off the bench. Like, that's an instant kind of possible sixth man of the year type player. 24 points, 3.8 rebounds, 7.1 assists, almost 47% shooting. Like, he's getting older in his years. This would be the perfect, like kind of scenario since Charlotte sucks. So that's the kind of player that I would look for, is not the names that everyone's already talking about, but the ones that might be, the sleepers that can really set us apart. So, but I'm looking forward to the rest of the season and seeing what happens. Looking forward to us hopefully beating Chicago last night. They got their teeth kicked in yesterday, and now it's back-to-back. So I really think that with OG actually knowing a little more of our plans now, instead of just having to like, hey, I don't know what's going on, I'm a cut. I think now, it'll be even more effective. So I'm looking forward to tonight.
Phil, you woke up and chose violence this morning. You saying Charlotte sucks. You're going back and forth with Jerry. You was making fun of me.
Everyone loves when Phil and I go back and forth, but we're saying the same thing, just in a different way. We're ultimately saying the same thing.
Jerry's texting our group chat, cursing us out. Like everything.
No, I just text the group chat saying I have to take my kids ice skating in 5 minutes because they still don't have school yet.
A whole week still.
Man.
Well, Knicks versus Bulls. I just want to make sure we sit there and remind Levine that we don't want him. We don't want you either. Okay. I just hope we pull this W tonight. As far as Precious goes, we were touching on that earlier. No sample size yet. I want to see what he brings to this team. But no, I think this is one of those W's tonight, man. I'm excited about tonight. Are we doing playbacks starting again next week, Jay?
Shoot, I mean, we probably should do it tonight. But again, I got no help coming.
Yeah, you got no. Dude, that's why I said next week.
Playback.
No, you do have help. Melatonin. That's my help.
Playback will be back. By the way, what a time for playback right now. So yeah, all of you in here, check our Twitters and stuff like that, because we'll post the schedule, and playback coming up soon. Good point right there.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I can't wait to jump back on the playbacks.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Appreciate everybody in the chat rocking with us today. We had over 400 across all platforms this morning. If you haven't yet, smash the like, hit the subscribe for your boys right here.
2,535 on the subscribers count. We
climbing up.
65 away from 2,600. I had to do the public school math in my head, but like Celso said, smack the subscribe button, smack the like button, take us out of here, you handsome devil, you.
Phil, we got this Friday? Open panel.
We have we
got George from Into the Knicks verse.
Yes,
this
George
Friday.
From Into the Knicks.
I'm making one of these open panels too. I got to.
You got to, bro.
You got babysitting duties back next week. You have free time. We'll get Jerry on.
Pray for my Achilles on the ice in the next hour.
We can't have you out with injury. All right? Phil will just sit there and be like, Jerry called in. You
Jerry didn't play. He's hurt. He's a bitch.
I gotta clip that.